Let's talk about what is happening in D.C., and that is some of the young bucks in Congress. They want to impose term limits on committee chairs. So this has been going on for quite some time now. The likely incoming Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has floated the idea that committee chairmen may have to give up their seats after a certain period of time. That may force out members of the Congressional Black Caucus, who this year will get to take over some very important committees. Now, I want to start with you, Eugene. What's interesting here is that the CBC, what they're essentially saying is like, well, time out. We've been playing by the rules, waiting in line, and then all of a sudden, now y'all want to tell us there are term limits. And this is where the CBC has to flex its muscle, being the largest caucus from the Democratic Party. This is why they say, hell no, ain't gonna happen. I don't care what many of you young bucks have to say.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think, some of the CBC members should have been given committee chairmanships a long time ago. I do know there's a seniority system in Congress on both houses, but that will go without saying that there is precedent within both chambers for term limits on chairmanships, particularly on the committees on intelligence and the oversight committee. Both of them, I believe, have like a two-term chairman term limit. I believe Ways and Means as well.
Well, Teresa, look, this is about power as well. And so what African Americans are saying is like, wait a minute, we finally get to assume power, and now y'all want to tell us and shove us aside?
Right. And yes, it's well overdue, but I mean, personally, I'm not so for, I'm okay with term limits because I see it a lot in my state of Pennsylvania where we do, there's 4-year terms, but, people are still in office for 30 years plus. And as they have been, elected to CBC, to serve in those capacities, about time, it is time for them to get to a senior level position. It's kind of over by a certain point. So I'm not saying I disagree, but I think the process of the way it's being done is a little disconcerting.
But Greg, look, this is about power. And so for African Americans, again, being political sharecroppers, and then folks who say, well, you know what, you got to have a certain number of years here. Here's the other piece. It's not like the Democrats are guaranteed to somehow control the House for the next 10 years.
That's right. Although let's take Michigan, for example. The young sister Tlaib was coming in from the Detroit area. Very excited about her energy, her passion, along with Ocasio-Cortez, of course, this young sister from Massachusetts, Yana. Let's think about this. When John Conyers ran into trouble and left his seat last year, I immediately thought to myself, that was the incoming chair of the Judiciary Committee. And so, we got Benny Thompson for sure. You have Elijah Cummings for sure. Maxine Waters, of course, who's going to get these tax returns from Trump, among other things, for sure. But the seniority game, as you said, this is about power. Understand how Lyndon Johnson got legislation passed through the Senate in the 1960s. Understand how Jesse Helms and the Southern Dixiecrats held power for so long. If you're in Congress long enough, you end up running these committees. And just when we get to the point where there's a notion that there's going to be black folks in power, when the Democrats have a majority, they want to change the rules. The only other thing I'd say is the CBC is going to have to vote as a block. I'm not sure about Hakeem Jeffries. Again, a corporate Dem, who's sometimes liberal, sometimes not. We saw what happened with the vote against Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee should have had that position. But again, you got CBC members who are thinking perhaps about their personal advancement, about how they can leverage this moment for their personal gain, instead of thinking about us as a block. And you've made this point, and others on this show have made this point over and over again. That becomes a legitimate problem when we can't think as a unit on certain things. And on this one, we need to think as a unit.
If I can add, if Nancy Pelosi is going to consider term limits for committee chairs, I think you cannot properly provide a plan like that without also assigning term limits to your House caucus leadership as well.
Well, we shall see. All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment. Transitioning to the holiday season, this time we start thinking about giving and sharing. Sometimes the best gift that you can give someone is an opportunity that could potentially change their lives. That's why our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor. It involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, we all know that legal marijuana has created one of the fastest growing industries in this country. We also know that crowdfunding makes it easy to be an early investor of an opportunity. Now, it's no brainer, folks. Here, this is very simple, but it gets even better. Transatlantic Real Estate is different, and they have a business model that is very simple to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Don't you hear that? You are investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. Now, for a limited time, you can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000 before the company goes public. Now, here's some more good news. They have recently extended the offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Keep in mind, you must complete and confirm your application to participate, so be sure to complete that process. Folks, don't spend all of your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets. Instead, get a return on your investment. You could also consider making an investment for someone special. How's that for a holiday gift? To get started, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org for you to get in the game and do it today. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered.